Hi everyone and welcome to another review. Today we're having a look at this 20mm 1.8 by Sony, which I bought for myself about 3 months ago for the Sony Alpha 7 Mark IV, for my Sony Alpha 7 Mark IV. Of course, you can use it also with all E-mount cameras like the Sony Alpha 6600 or the Sony Alpha 7R Mark V or S3 for instance. It retails at the moment at about 800 bucks, super lightweight, and I'm super happy that I got it for myself because I'm filming a lot using this lens. The body feels really good. It's compact and very light with 380 grams. The lens hood is included. There is no optical image stabilizer, but you can use the internal one of your Sony camera if your Sony camera supports an internal image stabilizer. I've been testing out that in a really short video, which is available here on my YouTube channel. It only takes about 2 minutes, and that's what you get out if you use the internal one of your Sony camera. Then you got 2 rings, one aperture control ring and one focus ring. 2 switches, one for the autofocus and manual focus. You got a click switch at the side, a programmable button on the left side, and you require a 67mm filter for this lens. And I highly recommend to do so because you don't want to scratch your front element. And I've been also using an ND filter for this video, which we'll have a look in a second. It is protected against dust and splash water, and it's offshore to Thailand and not made in Japan anymore. If we speak about flaring, it does produce a really nice lens flare using direct lighting and very pronounced as soon as you point the lens slightly away from a light source. I really don't mind, and if I would like to avoid them as much as possible, I take on the lens hood. If we speak about chromatic aberrations and vignetting, you can see a lot of vignetting here using this lens, but you can also get rid of that quite easily using the automatic correction in Adobe Lightroom. The vignetting does not necessarily become less even at 5.6, it's still visible, and as I said, use the automatic correction. If we speak about chromatic aberrations, there might be a green or magenta shimmer. As I said, Adobe Lightroom will help you to solve that issue. Let's speak about the autofocus, which is super nice, precise and fast here on the Sony Alpha 7 Mark IV. I switched on the eye autofocus to track myself, which we will speak about in a second, because this lens is also a nice tool for vlogging. If you switch to that really tiny focus field, the lens might have some issues sooner or later if you're really close to any subjects and there is less contrast. Keep that in mind, but in general I would say it's super fast in video mode as well as in photo mode. Something which is super nice is the minimum focusing distance, which is only 19 centimeters in AF and 18 centimeters in MF mode. So I took this lens with me in the nature and that's what I get out. It's super nice for details, also for art or when the background should be faded out. I took also some photos and videos of food, and I took it with me on a nice festival here in Frankfurt called World Club Dome, and these ones are the nice pictures that I got out using this lens here. I programmed the center knob of my Sony camera to switch into APS-C mode to get the field of view that I used to get when I have a 30mm lens attached to the same camera. And thanks to the high resolution of this Sony camera, I can still record even in crop mode with 14 megapixels, and that is more than enough for a 4K video. Let's speak about the wide angle once again. The real strength of this lens is that it has basically no distortion at all. Initially I thought getting the 14mm GM, and then I said to myself, I think let's try it out with the 20mm, and I could do anything with the 20mm. I went to Frankfurt, I took some pictures of apartments, and initially I thought, maybe 14, maybe 16mm would have been better, but no, not at all, because none of these edges fell into the background and I could get anything on the camera sensor that I wanted to get on. And here on this full frame camera you get 94 degrees of image diagonal and 17 degrees on an APS-C sensor camera. This lens is made for taking architecture pictures, and is there any better place in Germany to get these big skyscrapers than Frankfurt? Probably not that I am aware of. So we went to Frankfurt, we've been trying out many places, we've been standing in front of these huge skyscrapers and none of them really fell into background. And that's what I said just a few moments ago. The real strength here is the low distortion on the super wide angle lens. And thanks to the lightweight, we've been able to walk around the city the entire day easier using a hand strap or the shoulder strap, and it wasn't a problem at all. The camera in combination with that lens is less than a kilogram, which doesn't hurt at all if you have a long day in front of you where you need to take a lot of super wide angle shots. Then we come to the next points. Is that lens good for traveling? And I would say definitely if you require a super wide angle lens like this one here. First of all, I'm a big fan of fixed focal length. And the next thing is that it has a 1.8 aperture, which enables you to take even nice shots during low hours of darkness. You get a wonderful bokeh, which we'll speak about in a second. And as I said a few moments ago, it's so lightweight, and in combination with such a nice camera here with that flip screen, you can film yourself. And it's super sharp, even wide open, as you see at 1.8. Awesome details with that 33 megapixel camera. Then we come to one of my favorite topics, bokeh, so the blur background. This lens here features 9 aperture blades which deliver an awesome blur background. As you can see, I took these shots here in Frankfurt on an event, and I really like the bokeh a lot. It's nice for capturing detail shots or to film even some details. It can be in the nature, or if you're in a restaurant, for instance. The closer you get, the more blur background you will get as well. And I would say it's ideal for filming details, and it's nice for evening with friends or festivals. If you want to use that lens for traveling or even for your vlogs, I can recommend highly to get a camera with a flip display, not the ones that Sony produced in the past where you only have like a tilt display, which sucked a lot. But this one here is awesome. It does feature a stunning autofocus. The eye tracking is super accurate. Make sure to get an ND filter, and I got this one here because it takes away 6 stops of light. That means I can film myself even in bright daylight with a maximum aperture of 2.2 to 2.5 to blur out the background completely. That becomes important if you don't want to see any faces in your videos. Make sure to get one of these tiny video lights here for your camera if you want to film yourself during hours of darkness, because you get a stunning blur background if you vlog yourself using this 1.8 aperture lens. Let's summarize here. I do not regret to get this lens for my Sony Alpha 7 Mark IV. That's the lens which is attached all times to my camera here. And I've been trying out this lens on vacation. I was in a nightclub for you. I've been doing festival photos. Next weekend there's a wedding going on. And I will take this lens with me because I might get some stunning shots using the super wide angle lens here. It does have a nice design. It features 2 rings like the aperture control ring, which makes it super easy to switch from f22 to 1.8 with clicks or without clicks. The autofocus is nice, it's fast and it's precise. I like the minimum focusing distance, which helps me to isolate the fore from the background or vice versa to get some nice detail shots. And obviously I've been using it for interior photography, and as I said at the beginning, I thought initially getting the 14mm, but no, the 20mm is sufficient for most of the stuff I'm doing. Things like chromatic aberrations and vignetting, of course, they do exist, but you can solve that issue really quick by using the automatic correction in Adobe Lightroom. And as I said, it doesn't get too heavy, even if you walk like this through the entire city or wherever you are on vacation or something. It is protected against dust and splash water. And the cool thing is, like, this entire combination here, you can do already so much with it. Thanks to the great low light performance and the 1.8 aperture, film yourself in low light during daylight. Make sure to get an ND filter. And if you like that video, you can get this lens or the camera using the link provided in the video description below. You can get it also on my front store. Are you using this lens for your work? If yes, tell me for what are you using it. Thanks for everything and see you next time. Tschüss.